and welcome to the Culture Ward, where we dissect and dismember pop culture in all its forms. My name's Jess, and today we need to talk about one of the many elephants in the room, Snow White. Disney's live-action adaptation of the iconic animated classic Snow White hits theaters this week, and I thought we at least needed to acknowledge its existence. First off, I don't understand this need to make live-action remakes of animated classics. It's not really even live-action, is it? I mean, most of it is CGI. I prefer the old-fashioned hand-drawn cell animation CGI anyway. I think it looks better, I think it has more feeling, and it appears more cinematic. Some things are just made for animation and don't translate well into live action. But they keep making money on these things, so I guess they're going to keep making them as long as that happens. If you look at some of the recent ones they've done, The Jungle Book made almost $1 billion, Alice in Wonderland made over $1 billion, Aladdin made over $1 billion, Beauty and the Beast made $1.2 billion, and The Lion King made $1.6 billion. So, of course they're going to keep making these things. Cracks do start to appear if you look at Little Mermaid from 2023. The live-action remake, starring Halle Bailey, didn't do as well. It had a $250 million budget reportedly, not including its marketing. And while it did earn $569 million, there's some debate as to how much money Disney actually made or lost. Snow White in particular seems to have faced a lot of controversy leading up to its release. I'm not sure how confident Disney is that they're going to make a boatload of money off this movie. So Reuters notes that Disney's Snow White reaches theaters on Friday after having been dogged by controversies that dragged the retelling of the 1937 animated classic into the culture wars, potentially threatening its box office performance. The big-budget adaptation of Walt Disney's original princess story has been in the works since 2016, following a string of box office successes with similar live-action remakes of Disney animated films, including, as we talked about, Alice in Wonderland, Cinderella, and The Jungle Book. According to Reuters, the project has an estimated budget of $270 million and has become mired in the nation's divisions over race, the 2024 election, and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And that's only part of the story. So the film, like Disney's 2023 live-action remake of Little Mermaid, attracted backlash for casting a person of color in the lead role. Disney's selection of Rachel Zegler, an actor of Colombian descent, for the title role prompted some online critics to deride the project as Snow Woke. Why does it matter? It matters because the name of the movie, the main character in the movie, Snow White, is based on her skin being white as snow. She's described like that in the fairy tale. And not only did they cast a person who is not white as Snow White, they leaned into it, and they almost antagonized fans with the casting. Does it really matter in the grand scheme of things? Probably not. She has a great voice. I don't know much about her acting talent or her charisma. If the only thing Rachel Zegler had done was just not be white, then there probably wouldn't be much of an issue. The scandal would have died down quickly. However, she couldn't stop antagonizing fans. As this article notes, the 23-year-old Zegler fanned some of the controversy. She antagonized Trump supporters with a series of Instagram stories posted after the 2024 election, condemning those who voted for the president. She wrote that may Trump supporters and Trump voters and Trump himself never know peace.
If you disagree with this sentiment, just hit the unfollow button. I don't need your business.
Are you sure about that?
Rachel Zegler caused further controversy when she made some negative comments about the original Snow White. In a now viral clip, she derided the original as being outdated, and she said, well, quite a few things that were unflattering about the movie.
You said you were bringing a modern edge to it on stage. What do you mean by that?
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be. You know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird. Reality is that the cartoon was made 85 years ago, and therefore it's extremely dated when it comes to the ideas of women being in roles of power. And
as a result of her statements, many fans are expecting the film to be just another in a growing line of classic movies updated for, quote, modern audiences that lacks the heart and soul of the originals. And there were several other issues with the production of this movie. Way back in the early days of production, there was some controversy over whether they were going to use dwarves in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Apparently, even the most famous dwarf in Hollywood, Peter Dinklage, had a problem with Disney using dwarves. When it was announced that Disney was doing the Snow White remake, Peter Dinklage spoke out on a Mark Maron podcast, saying that he was taken aback by the studio's celebration of casting a Latina lead, even as it revisits a story with problematic representation of dwarves.
You're progressive in one way, but you're still making that fucking backward story of seven dwarves living in a cave. What the are you doing, man?
And of course, dwarf actors weren't happy with Peter Dinklage's statements either. They label Peter Dinklage's Snow White criticism as selfish. So Peter Dinklage has been called selfish and hypocritical by fellow actors with dwarfism after he spoke out against a planned live-action remake of Disney classic Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
I mean, my biggest thing is he wants to be progressive, and him being progressive is eliminating 7 potential dream jobs from the dwarf acting community.
Disney responded by saying, to avoid reinforcing stereotypes from the original animated film, we are taking a different approach with these 7 characters and have been consulting with members of the dwarfism community. We know at one point that Disney sent out set photos showing 7 diverse individuals, and it was assumed that these 7 people were going to replace the 7 dwarfs. The pictures were widely slammed and ridiculed, and it would have been a terrible mistake for Disney to use those in place of the 7 dwarfs. Now, Disney did go back and do reshoots, and it's assumed that when they did, they replaced the 7 diverse individuals with CGI dwarves. After Dinklage's statements on the Mark Maron podcast, Disney responded by saying they are consulting with the dwarfism community for a perfect depiction of the 7 dwarfs. A couple years later, when the trailer came out, the trailer showed no real actors for the dwarves, who are magical creatures now. Disney thought of giving this a twist and used CGI to make the characters appear in the film. They said they would be taking a different approach to avoid reinforcing stereotypes. CGI is their different approach to this, and now we have 7 imaginary characters, given that no actor in the film's cast is portraying any dwarf. And when the trailer dropped and these CGI dwarfs were revealed, they were nothing short of nightmare fuel. Once again, Disney enters the uncanny valley, and again, they got nothing but ridicule online once this trailer dropped. As you can see, this movie has had its fair share of controversies, setbacks, and problems. And the problem now is that the entire movie industry seems to be relying on Snow White to bail it out of a bad situation. This past weekend, Jack Quaid's Novocaine led a painfully slow weekend with $8.7 million debut. So for theater owners, there's not too much to celebrate. It's one of the worst debuts to still capture the #1 spot. Despite 5 new nationwide releases, this weekend was among the year's lowest grossing to date, with roughly $54 million across all films. This sluggish first quarter has been another blow to the badly bruised movie theater business, which is banking on 2025 to revive the business after COVID and Hollywood's labor strikes. And theaters are actually looking forward to the release of Snow White to try to make some money. Now, Disney's profit and loss statement aside, the theaters don't care if Disney makes money, which they're not likely to on this movie, but just bringing people into the theaters will bring some much needed capital to the theater industry. And unfortunately, the early reviews are in on this movie, and Snow White simply isn't getting moviegoers to buy in. According to The Wrap, after years of delays and online vitriol, Disney is finally set to release its remake of Snow White, and it's going to take a lot to keep it from becoming one of the biggest flops in the studio's now decade-old remake series. With a reported production budget said to be at least $250 million, Snow White is tracking for a domestic opening of $45 to $50 million and a global opening of around $100 million. So what this movie really needed was some positive reviews when it first came out. Good word of mouth could have saved this movie and turned things around at the box office. Let's see how they're doing. Oh no. It's too cheesy, too over the top, and too visually flat while brimming over with hyperactive theater kid energy that's better suited for a Disney Princess cruise ship show. Kurt Loder just says, "How much does it suck, you ask?" I don't know how bad this movie's going to be, and I really don't care. My kids are all too old to enjoy this kind of stuff, and I'm not interested in seeing a live-action remake of Snow White starring Rachel Zegler. So I'm going to skip this one. What about you? You going to see Snow White? Are you looking forward to it? Let me know in the comments below. As always, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video and want to see more content. Bye for now. I hope to see you next time in the Culture Ward.